All right, let's dive in. Today we're talking about AG2, an open source framework that gives us a whole new way to think about building with AI agents. It's less of a library and more of an agent operating system.
So if you're an engineer in this space, you know the drill. You build a cool proof of concept with a single LLM and it's great. But then, moving that to a real production-ready system with multiple agents, that is a massive jump. How do you actually engineer for complexity, for security, for reliability? Well, that's exactly the problem AG2 is built to solve. So here's our game plan. We'll start with the big idea behind AG2, then get into its core architecture. After that, we'll see how agents get their powers, how we make them work together, and we'll wrap up with why this whole thing is a real game changer for us engineers. Okay, first things first. We have to understand that AG2 isn't just another tool. It's a fundamental shift in perspective.
And this is the core idea right here. Conversation as programming. Instead of writing one giant messy script, you're defining a set of autonomous agents, and then you program the conversation between them. The conversation itself becomes the computation. It's an incredibly powerful way to think, because it makes these super complex workflows modular, way easier to debug, and built to scale from day one.
Now, I know what you're thinking. A slide on licensing? Really? But stick with me, because for anyone working in a real company, this is huge. AG2 moved to the Apache 2.0 license, and the key part is that it includes an express patent grant. This is the kind of thing that makes your company's legal team breathe a sigh of relief. It's a clear signal that AG2 is built for serious, enterprise-level work.
So, we've got the philosophy. Now let's look at how the system is actually put together. What are the fundamental building blocks?
Everything, and I mean everything, in AG2 starts with this, the ConversableAgent. You can think of it as the atom of the AG2 universe. If something can send or receive a message, whether it's an LLM, a tool, or even you, the human, it's a conversable agent. It's the universal language of the whole system.
And this right here is probably the single most important architectural pattern in the whole framework. AG2 splits agents into two main roles, the reasoner and the executor. The assistant agent is the brain. It's the LLM that thinks, plans, and writes code. But the user proxy agent is the hands. It's the one that actually runs the code and uses tools, usually with your permission. This separation is a massive win for security. The unpredictable LLM never gets to directly touch your system.
Okay, so we've got our agents, but they're not very useful if they can't actually do anything. So let's talk about giving them tools, letting them execute code safely, and keeping a human in the driver's seat.
You see how that reasoner-executor pattern plays out here? It's a clean two-step dance. The assistant agent analyzes the situation and says, hey, we should use this tool with these arguments. It then hands that request over to the user proxy agent, which is the only one with the clearance to actually make the call. It's a super clean, secure, and predictable way to work.
And speaking of security, letting an LLM write and run code can be, a little terrifying. For any production system, it's a non-starter without a safety net. That's why AG2 has this built right in. You just set use Docker to true, and boom, all LLM-generated code runs inside an isolated Docker container. It's sandboxed and can't mess with your host system. Absolutely essential.
Full automation isn't always the answer. Sometimes you need a leash. AG2 gives you really fine-grained control here. You can set it to always check with you, which is great for debugging. You can set it to never for a fire-and-forget task, or, my personal favorite, terminate, which lets the agents run wild on their own but forces them to check in with you before finishing the job. That flexibility is key to building trust in the system. Now we get to the really fun part. We have our agents, they have tools, they're secure, but how do we make them all play nicely together? This is all about orchestration. The heart of collaboration in AG2 is the GroupChat. Now, if you've been following the project for a while, you might remember older concepts like swarms. The good news is, all of that has been simplified and unified into this one powerful GroupChat hub. It's your one-stop shop for defining how your agents are going to collaborate.
And within that GroupChat, you can plug in different director styles. Want a dynamic brainstorm where an LLM decides who should talk next? Use auto pattern. Have a very strict step-by-step process? Default pattern is your friend. Need agents to just take turns? That's round robin. And of course, manual pattern puts you in the director's chair, which is perfect for debugging or when the stakes are really high.
Okay, let's bring it all home. We've seen the concepts and the architecture, but what are the practical, day-to-day features that make AG2 a fantastic choice for professional engineers?
Oh man, every engineer who's worked with LLMs feels this pain. Parsing messy, unpredictable string outputs is just the worst. Well, AG2 has a beautiful solution using Pydantic for structured outputs. You just define the data structure you want, and the framework forces the LLM to give you a clean, validated JSON object that matches. No more brittle regex. This is a lifesaver.
And getting started is as simple as it should be. It's a standard pip install. You just add the extras you need, like for OpenAI, and you're good to go.
Configuration is also really smart and production-friendly. The standard is this OAI_config list file. But don't just think of it as a static config file. It's more like a dynamic model registry. You can list multiple models, GPT-4, GPT-3.5, local models, and then programmatically filter and choose them at runtime. This makes things like A/B testing models, setting up cost-saving fallbacks, or routing tasks to specialized models incredibly easy.
So when you boil it all down, who is this really for? It's for researchers pushing the boundaries of what's possible. It's absolutely for AI and ML engineers who need to build secure, robust, production-grade systems. And it's for any team that's hit a wall because their problem is just too big and complex for a single LLM to handle alone.
Look, at the end of the day, AG2 provides the solid, unopinionated foundation of a true agent operating system. It gives you the professional-grade tools to engineer really complex, collaborative AI systems. It doesn't tell you what to build, it just gives you the power to build. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build with it?